If you've been watching my channel recently, then you'll know how much I love Transformers Animated and its accompanying toy line. And, as of April 2024, I have managed to get every major Hasbro TFA mould. Most of these figures are my childhood ones, but others are ones I have bought second hand over the years, mainly this year. So, I thought why not do a painful task and go over every mould in one video. This video is going to be long, so I wanted to make it fun by having some special guests talk about their favourite animated moulds. Before they get into my ramblings and the ramblings of the guests, I need to lay down some ground rules. There will only be Hasbro moulds talked about. This means that I can talk about Takara versions of Hasbro moulds as long as they were also released by Hasbro. This also means no Blackouts or Hydra Bumblebees as they were Takara exclusives, even if they were also meant to be released by Hasbro. No activators, bumper battlers or other gimmicky figures will be included, those are a video on their own. Repaints aren't counted as individual figures, but retools are, meaning that Skascream made repaints of one figure, whilst Prowl and Samurai Prowl are separate. They have to be released under the TFA banner, so Legacy, Reveal the Shield and Legends figures don't count. That's it for the rules, so now it's time to get on with the main course, the figures. I'll be going in wave and wiki order, so let's begin with Bumblebee. Being the first figure makes sense, considering he is the face of the show. This deluxe is massive and out of scale when next to the rest of the figures, but scale didn't matter back in 2008. He features his characteristic grin, showing off his childish personality that was provided by Bumper Robinson. He has quite a few features like his stingers. They can be separate but are meant to be together. He also has his boosters, which aren't accurate in colour but they look great along his back. His transformation is quite simple and follows his on-screen model incredibly closely, even if he does require fake parts. But the vehicle model looks amazing. The yellows don't match, but neither do ER Sunstreaker's yellows, and that was released more than 10 years later. It's a spitting image of Captain Fanzone's car. He is also repainted in Wave 4 into a lick of Bumblebee, which is basically Big But My Chemical Romance. We would have gotten a Fugitive Wasp, but that was cancelled along with Season 4. Now, let's look at one of Animated's breakout characters, Lockdown, and for that, we're joined by our first guest, Xortrider.
I've been asked to chat to you today about what my favourite Transformers animated toy is, and I think the line itself is probably one of the best, most animation accurate lines we've had in the 40 years of Transformers. It's an amazing, amazing toy line. There are some really, really strong figures in there, but for me, the best one, the best figure has to be Lockdown. Lockdown here is huge. I mean, this is a deluxe figure comparing next to like this little fella that we've got these days. It's absolutely bonkers to think that this was a deluxe toy. The aesthetic is outstanding. The transformation is really, really interesting. And it's just a great figure. And I've just popped off a part of his foot. I think we've clipped that back on there, like so. But yeah, it comes with his iconic hook hand and also with the EMP blaster that I think also can go on Ratchet's arm. I think he got that from Ratchet in the series. Interesting thing here, I had forgotten that he's actually got two hands. So that is actually a weapon. So the new Legacy one that's coming out is pretty much identical in that way, that you can have a double hand or you can have his weapon on. And here he is in his apocalyptic Mad Max style, or Fortnite if you play it lightly, style car. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's such a great aesthetic. A bit of parts forming on the old engine and middle part of the car. So if you lose that EMP, you're a little bit buggered. The car mode doesn't work. But I think this is so strong. Such a lovely, beautiful figure. And to me, the best Transformers animated toy made.
Cybertron Mode Optimus is one of my favourite deluxes. Every time I look at him, I think of the speech from episode 1, or the scene where Sentinel betrayed him. Basically, this figure is a roller coaster. Whilst he has strange proportions, he looks phenomenal. He has his maskless face, which is more animated than his mask. His weapons are odd, and they combine. Okay? I love transforming this figure, as it's solid and interesting, especially the axe storage. And the truck is beautiful. I can just see this driving along Arca 7. I really enjoy this deluxe figure. Prowl is a fan favourite character, but not for me until this year when I rewatched TFA and I fell in love with his character development. So, how was his toy? Great. That great that they retooled it. And he comes with a traffic light? Okay, Human Error Part 2. He is also a fantastic poser and has some great weapon storage. I love his transformation and that alt mode. This is the best bike form I have ever owned, and I don't think we can get any better. The first animated Voyager is a fantastic mold, and that belongs to another one of Animated's breakout characters, Bulkhead. This is such a cartoony design, and the figure truly gives it that feel. And with this being Wyatt's first design, it only makes sense for him to be the first Voyager in the first wave. This is mine from being a child, so the side panels are floppy, but this is still a great figure. He has a punching gimmick, if it'll work, and he has his wrecking ball. The transformation is clunky and all done with big moving parts. The alt mode is so bulkhead that I can't help but smile. It feels like an absolute unit, and it's something that we haven't seen since TFA ended. We would have seen a repaint into Mudbuster Bulkhead, but that was cancelled along with Season 4 sadly. Cybertron Mode Megatron is a weird release as he's white and has some tiny thighs. Despite this, I do really enjoy him. He is what I thought I was playing with when I messed with the Deluxe as a kid. His face is expressive, but he doesn't fit this Megatron as he was more calmer than angry, especially in this form. Fusion cannon is huge, but it's a massive saveability problem. It could be a sword which was never in the show. His transformation is bad. It's annoying to do and you don't even get an accurate jet, but I find myself enjoying this jet a lot. This figure feels more like a toy than any other figure we have taken a look at so far. Skascream is the last Voyager of Wave 1, and he's a weird one. He doesn't look like Skascream. None of the toys did. One of these days I need to get my hands on a hot pink Skascream. It's a primal desire. It is an awkward, gorilla arm freak that produced some killer repaints. In Wave 5, a Skywarp, and a Tesco exclusive with Sunstorm. The repaints are so much better than Starscream that I almost feel bad for him, but then I remember that Thundercracker was cancelled, so I never feel bad for him. His transformation is pure 2000s goodness, and it's all automorph, which doesn't really work well on my Starscream and Skywarp, but Sunstorm is great. The jet mode is pretty weird, and I say pretty mainly because of Sunstorm. Maybe I should have just talked about him as he's absolutely gorgeous. Look at that, sucking up to the suck up. Now it's time for the leader classes. These are the type of leaders that haven't been seen since Dark of the Moon. The plastic on these is like messing with gold. So, let's start with... Bulkhead is a behemoth and a powerhouse. He does come with the Headmaster unit, but since my copy was second hand, I sadly don't have it. In spite of that, this figure still has some of Henry Masterson's influences. Eric Siebenatler designed this figure to be a what if the Headmaster made some extra modifications. This gave Bulkhead extra missiles and a saw in his hand. Okay. His articulation isn't the best, but that wasn't part of the old leaders. They were meant for play. The electronics are quite cute, being lights and voice lines.
Sorry, my bad. Time for the big guns. Do it, buddy.
His transformation is clunky, much like his Voyager counterpart, but with more moving parts and the iconic transformation sound. His vehicle is a highly modified version of the Voyagers, with many weapons that don't really fit this friendly giant. His electronics still work, but changing into sirens which can get really annoying. Now it's time for my favourite animated leader figure and my favourite figure of this character, Megatron. This is a spitting image of the animated model, from the angles to the colours, and even the sounds.
Where is the Allspark? Crush the Autobots.
Hearing these again brings me back to being 5 and entering Toys R Us in the Lakes and buying the super value pack with him and activated Starscream. I wish I could say that this is my childhood one, but that one broke and all I have left is his right arm. I don't have his swords for both this version and the Wave 3 Shadowblade repaint. The Shadowblade one is the sexiest repaint animated ever produced. This is a colour scheme that hasn't been seen since, and I think that is a travesty. The transformation is exactly like the show model, and in the end we get Megatron's best alt mode. There is a reason that Earthspark took this alt mode, as it fits him more than a tank or a jet. Even without the swords, this is still an amazing Osprey. Like Bulkhead, he has new sounds, and those are helicopter noises and the transformation sound. But my dog hates them.
What's that?
Oh, you're giving up. Wave 2 starts off with my favourite character from anything ever, Black Arachnia. This deluxe is far from Animated's best, but she means so much to me. I picked her up from Meadowhall in Sheffield back in 2008, and she has stuck with me ever since. I played with her more than any other toy I've ever had. She has seen better days, being scuffed and missing her fangs, but you know, she is loved. Over more recent years, she has come to every TFN and Roller Water Call I have attended, and her character, wow. Let's just say that she means a lot to me, and I would love to meet Cree Summer one day. Her accessory is a grappling hook that I'm surprised I still own after all of these years. Takara repainted and remoulded this figure for the Legends line to be a version of Beast Wars Black Arachnia that I have courtesy of the brilliant Dr. Lockdown, but she isn't an animated figure, so she isn't included. Her transformation isn't much, but it's honest work. Her spider mode is the spitting image of the screen model, something that could definitely scare Bumblebee. It is the best design for Black Arachnia's alt mode. Now it's time for the Cranky Boy and another animated characterization that influenced many other incarnations, Ratchet. This figure is incredibly common on the aftermarket, and can be found for dirt cheap, unlike his Tesco exclusive Piss Boy counterpart. This is a great mould, with many gimmicks. He even has his magnets, but they are in half so you can't do an electromagnetic pulse with Bumblebee. He has a plethora of tools that can tap into his back or his palms. He can also get his EMP back from Lockdown. His transformation is great as he shifts all of his mass, that is something that is missing from most modern figures. He does have visible seats, which is a great attention to detail, although I do wish he came with a small spike and collar so you can replicate that scene where he drives them to the hospital but scares them. Overall, this is a fantastic deluxe figure. The first and only Voyager in Wave 2 is the figure that drove me to collect every animated mould, Optimus Prime. Now, mine is the Takara version, as that was easy to get on the aftermarket and far cheaper. The only difference is that this is metallic and has the right colour Autobots insignia. This figure is a majesty and definitely one of the standouts of the line, in my opinion. He is a great size, being bigger than C's Megatron, who is considered big for a modern Voyager. He is full of features, from the water gun to the mask gimmick, which is something I haven't seen since. His proportions are spot on to his character model, with only one caveat, the leg kibble. This isn't in complaint, as I love how it gives him an armoured look, but more of an acknowledgement of an imperfection. His axe is also an imperfection, as it's nowhere near his axe's design, but it has a functionally not mode so I can forgive it. The transformation is simple and full of springs, making it nice and clicky. His weapons form the closest we've ever gotten to each trailer if you don't count the big gun. Other than the wheel placements, this is an incredibly accurate fire truck, and my favourite Optimus alt mode if you don't count Robots in Disguise 2001. Now it's time for Wave 2's leader, Ultra Magnus, and our second guest, Dom.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you the greatest figure in all of Animated. At least that was the plan, and then Hasbro's lawyers and legal stolen toys. Yeah, probably not. For the discerning magpie, for tasting grey market imports. The best figure.
Put on the Black Swan!
Oh yes. Ratchet joints that make you want to break stuff. Need I say more?
Time for Wave 3, possibly my favourite wave, just due to the array of characters, and no what better signifies that more than Jazz. Joining us to talk about this magnificent figure is none other than Manic Miner's Toystore.
Hi, I'm Kev from Manic Miner's Toystore, and my favourite Transformers animated is Jazz. Tip of the hat for letting me do this video, because I don't normally do a lot of videos, and Jazz is a particular favourite of mine. As you all know, he's Optimus Prime's right hand man, and quite often the voice of reason when Optimus is quite conflicted, so pretty special guy. He's still, the animated, he's still the Porsche, is it 935 Turbo? Google that, folks, just double check. And as you know, in the cartoon, he's a Cyber Ninja, which has these cool little features. his little exhaust ports reminds me of Panthro the Thundercat. So there's not very often you get blasters where you can just go. And let's check him out in alt mode. Ba 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 ba. Bing! So there he is in alt mode, still cool. Super wide wing mirrors that look like kind of rockets. And then speaking of rockets, we've got our lovely exhaust pipe nunchucks. Can't emphasize that enough, this is how cool these are. And then just for a nice little comparison, I brought along my old buddy, G1. G1, check that out. All still got the decals. What a lovely tribute. Particular favourite of mine. Anyway, on with the video. Cheers, folks. Yeah.
Much like Jazz, Oil Slick is another case of a great deluxe. For a character who had 5 seconds of screen time, and to be fair, they were incredibly memorable, his figure is fantastic. I love him slightly crouched as I see him as TFA's version of Arcane's Singed. But talking of Singed, mine looks singed as he has seen better days. His rubber has broken, but this is my childhood copy and he is missing his weapons. But not to worry, as you can form a chainsaw with his hand. Can we also talk about his head? This is a genius idea, and more Transformers need designs like Oil Slicks. His motorcycle is definitely where this mold shines. The colours and moulded details make this feel like one of Wyatt's Scooby-Doo designs, and I can't help but love it. Probably helped that this looks as emo was black, and that skull reminds me of Halloween decorations, and it's hauntingly welcome. Snarl is a weird one, as he isn't the best figure, but my grandparents bought me him back for my birthday in 2009, and he isn't the worst figure. He is surprisingly in great condition considering I messed with him so much as a kid. He is the spitting image of his show model, but he should have been bigger. TFA's line didn't bother with accuracy, but he's a Dinobot. Snarl isn't G1 Snarl, but G1 Slag or Slug, which was actually mentioned by Scrapper in Human Error. He has very limited articulation, but he didn't move much in the show, so all is good anyway. His transformation is fiddly due to his tolerances, but it's fine as the Triceratops mod is beautiful. It's chunky and feels like a prehistoric dog, which is what he was to Scrapper. The next deluxe is another I had as a child. Actually, I had all of Wave 3 as a child, so no wonder I love this wave so much. But this is a phenomenal figure that I believe still holds up to today, and this is Soundwave. What a phenomenal piece of plastic. It rocks. Quite literally. Animated Soundwave has always had a special place in my heart, as his introduction was an episode I constantly watched as a kid. It was great. This figure also has modern articulation with waist swivels and ankle tilts. For 2008-9, this was groundbreaking. Laserbeak is a great inclusion too, like he's a bloody guitar. Give him more guitar transformers right now. His transformation is quite good too, as he becomes quite slim as he shifts his mass. And this vehicle mode, wow. I want more of this in the future as it fits Soundwave so well, and it was that good, they made a model car of it. Wave 3's Voyagers are definitely some of the most interesting releases, so let's start with Grimlock. Much like every other Wave 3 figure, this is my childhood one. I got this figure after a trip to the doctors, so he has some memories attached. Despite those biases, I believe this to be one of the most fun Voyagers in the line as he has a sword. Swords make everything better in my opinion, and there are so many poses you can pull off, especially with his articulation. Despite having no ankles, he can pose really well, especially for its time. And that head, wow. Yes, it deviates from the G1 design, but it fits animated aesthetic, and I prefer my Beastie Boy to the monstrous facade. And that light piping, it's wonderful. The transformation is classic Grimlock, so there isn't much to know, other than how hollow the chest of his dino mode is. But it's from 2008, it's fine. The T-Rex is great, it's a spitting image of his Megatron made almost from the show, even if a bit small, which is a theme with Wave 3's Voyagers. Grimlock was a large boy in the show, but once again, scale didn't matter. Now it's time for the most beloved character in all of Animated, Lugnut. Yeah, we all know this figure is undersized, and the ROTS version is probably better, but this figure has a certain pet-like charm. It feels like if you said he was a good boy, then he'd wag his tail and give you his paw. But yes, he is small. He scales over the activators, but no one else. His articulation is also limited, especially mine since his shoulder is glued in place after Baby Me broke it. His weapon is parts forming, but it's an early 2000s toy trying to be a toy and not a collectible like the figures of today. Whilst the gimmick of it no longer works and it doesn't fit Lugnut's character, it's still a nice inclusion. The transformation is easy, but that alt mode, definitely in my top 10 alt modes of all time. It's such a menacing bother even if the size is small. I've always loved how his hands became the bombs, a genius idea from Derek J. Wyatt. And even without the side guns, it's still a great plane. We've already covered Wave 3's leader, Shadowblade Megatron, so let's move on to Wave 4. I need these swords. I have bits of the sword, but I don't have the sword, so once again we're braced by Dom's photography. Well, I don't know once again, because I'm recording these out of order, so this could be the first one you see for Dom's stuff, but oh well, beautiful, beautiful little swords. The first deluxe in this wave is a leak called Bumblebee, a repaint of Wave 1's Bumblebee that has already been talked about. Sentinel is the first new deluxe of Wave 4, and to give us a rundown, it's Skascream.
Hello. You join me here on this strange, salubrious day to take a look at one of the biggest tossers I've ever met. In all seriousness, I was struggling to find someone to talk about for this video. Of the bots I've got with me right now, only 2 of them are from the original animated run, those being the leader Bulkhead and this guy. Now obviously both of these are still great toys. Bulkhead has a permanent place in my Legacy animated display, but Sentinel Prime here just got a certain vibe that practically bullied me into making this video. It says a lot to the power of being a prick that Sentinel is still with me after all this time. He's the robot equivalent of a Splinter, if a Splinter buried so deep you couldn't get it out for 15 years. He survived several trips to Manic Miners, eBay clearouts, you name it. Sentinel perseveres. He's like a virus. Like a fever. And he shows his age too. It's pretty clear just from looking at this figure that he's been well loved over the years. He's had a bit of a Van Gogh moment on his cranium, and the paint on his chest is chipped to buggery. This unfortunately makes the body look a bit shite, not that the fake chest was ever the best to begin with. Sentinel's design in the show would probably cause a code brown in the design room at Hasbro though. The dude's basically a walking triangle of muscle, so the fake part can kind of be justified. While we're on the topic of his Donkey Kong physique, the sculpting for the arms and hands is marvellous. His forearms are sturdy, built like Soviet fridges, and curiously enough the same size as this pensive grommet figurine. He also ticks all 3 boxes of being a TikTok influencer. Thigh gap for days, snatched little waist, and an insidious personality. Moving upwards and outwards, we get to the shoulders. Call Michael Bay, because we've found the cube. Almost as wide as he is tall, these behemoths finish off the arms perfectly, and the way they swing round the body to make the rear tyres of the vehicle mode is almost as satisfying as a night with your mum. Checking in on his very little dome, we can see his face is near a perfect replica of that on-screen arsehole, and it somehow meets at the exact midpoint between the 2 Arnolds, with the chin of a certain Tumblr sexy man. Weirdly enough, there seems to be light piping in the head, but I'm not sure if it works properly. Maybe there was some sort of cock-up in the design phase. I'm sure the wiki knows. Or we can ask Dom. And he's certainly looking good from the back too. Hardly any kibble back here, but the whole front end of a Toyota Hilux is leaving the front chest a bit sorry for itself. Unfortunate screw placement there. The weapon is accurate enough, I suppose. In this show it's more of a lance instead of the one beyond lightsaber he's stuck with. But I suppose with the limited budgets of the late animated toys, a simple sword works well enough. His main weapon, the shield, unfortunately disappeared into the void some years ago, and I know it's in here somewhere, but I frankly can't be arsed. Both these weapons store in alt mode, and while it's certainly inspired, it's not necessarily very good. The same cannot be said for the alt mode, however. This thing is straight Bayverse Ironhide energy, but if you made it even cooler. I've personally never seen a vehicle like this in real life, but I honestly just think this is the coolest thing in the world. Maybe it's just because it's blue and everything looks better in blue, but what do I know? Getting Sentinel into his alt mode is also brilliant fun. There's simply just nothing else like this in Transformers, and maybe that's why I've held on to it after all these years. All in all, Sentinel Prime is a great little figure, who was just cursed to be a deluxe. Part of me wishes he got the Optimus treatment and got a Voyager later on down the line, but the fact that this is the only Sentinel toy makes it all the more interesting to talk about. This has been Skascream. Don't forget it.
Swoop is an interesting one. He's a last of the animated Dinobots, yet I've always thought of him as an outlier. Gumnak and Snarl give off Knight vibes, while Swoop is more of a wizard. Making him a slender wizard does fit his slender frame and alt mode, but he isn't a wizard, he's a big knight. with the coolest Transformers weapon in my opinion, Fire Mace. This thing is definitely my favourite part of Sweep, as he isn't that memorable, apart from the fact that I lost his head for years. The transformation isn't memorable either, but the alt mode is cool. I mean, I'm lost for words as I find this figure quite boring. Like, he isn't bad, but he isn't memorable. There's a reason he's cheap on the aftermarket. As we get to the end of Wave 4 of Hasbro's Animated line, it's time to take a look at my favourite triple changing character, Blitzwing. A little disclaimer, mine isn't complete as it's missing the back things and the cannons, but it's still Blitzwing. He is a fantastic figure of a phenomenal character. He is quite tall and he feels great in your hand. He has the face changing gimmick from the show, and I believe that it's done brilliantly and something I'm glad was referenced in the thrilling 30 release. The tank mode looks great, and would look better with the cannons, but alas, this is my channel so don't complain. It would also be great if it had some tabs to hold it together in the legs. The jet is just a tank with a cockpit. It's basically Legacy's tank. Jokes aside, this is a good version of the jet, especially for a triple change release in 2008-2009. We end Wave 4 with Roadbuster Ultra Magnus, a strange, half-assed repaint of Ultra Magnus from Wave 2. He is a great repaint however, even if it makes no sense at all. Wave 5 starts off with a banger of the name of Blur. This is an outstanding figure and one of the largest deluxes in the line, almost the size of the bot who crushed him. This figure is agile and screams quick, like a Blur should. And the paint is so well applied. Well, on this version, as my childhood one is scratched to buggery. This is also incredibly solid, unlike my childhood one, as I played with that until it yellowed. I mean, the weapon makes no sense, since Blur never had a weapon, but I would have loved to have seen the device that Master Disaster used to control him in his illegal street races. Instead, he comes with this shield, saw thing, a reference to his G1 toy. The transformation can be awkward, but that car, this is the best Autobot alt mode in Animated. It's my favourite alt mode that Blur has undertaken, far better than any hovercraft he's had. The angles, the pancake size and the electric blue wheels, this is how you do a speedster. The next figure of Wave 5 is Blazing Lockdown, which is a repaint that goes for too much money on the aftermarket. And Blazing, give that man a spliff. But since he's a repaint, he's already been talked about. This video has taken so long to complete that I've managed to actually get my hands on a Blazing Lockdown. So that entire segment of me not owning it is void now, isn't it? Really? So here he's beautiful. You know, he is beautiful. I won't lie. Swindle is my favourite figure from Wave 5. He isn't the best and he isn't worth his eBay prices. Luckily, I had one as a child, so take that, Evil Bay. Since I've already reviewed him, I won't go too in depth, but there still is one issue that needs to be discussed: clear plastic. Now, whilst mine has held up even after many bashings, it can still be an issue as I've heard many copies cracking, so just be careful when handling him. Other than that, this intergalactic arms dealer is still a fantastic deluxe. His vehicle is a chunky Humvee and definitely a great update of his G1 alt mode, especially with his cannon on top. The first Voyager of Wave 5 is Longarm Prime. He's a chunky boy, but for a throwaway mode, he's alright. He also has his limb altering powers, which in turn transform him into his true form. The Decepticon spy, Shockwave. This is such an interesting figure, as you get two. It's such a clever idea for Shockwave. I want to make a full review of this figure soon, so I won't drag on. Saying that, he is a huge lad, the size that Lugnut should have been. The transformation to tank is just flattering the limbs, but with extra steps. But the tank is accurate and would scare Blur. The transformation to long arms crane is even easier. Just move the treads down and you're done. It's not the best alt mode, but I guess it fits for a disguise. The next and final Voyager of this wave is Skywarp. It's a repaint of Wave on Skascream, but it's definitely better than his brother. To start off Wave 6, we have one of the vocalists from the indie group Victorian Records, Leah.
Welcome to my little nook in which we're going to talk about Samurai Prowl, who's like if Neo from The Matrix not only became a Transformer, but developed a real-life personality too. I mean, let's get it out of the way first. This guy is hot. There's something about his skinny little waist and funky shades that really make me feel like this guy is respectful daddy material. Plus, he's a really nice guy. I'd trust him to dog sit for me. It'd be much easier than looking after a human 8-year-old anyway. If you ask me, Prowl's super sleek design from the TV show translates over really nicely to this figure. He feels super balanced in terms of bulk. His chunkier limbs taper in nicely to his torso, which keep him feeling stealthy and solid as opposed to weedy and skinny. On a personal note too, I really love the silhouette of his legs. They look like little flares. It really makes me see him as like a 70s jazz head type, which is a concept that I definitely need to put to paper. I think his face is brilliant, super accurate to the show, with his grumpy little mouth right under his shades, leaving his chin looking like a mortal weapon. It's huge. And here is Samurai Prowl's vehicle mode. I really love the design choice to keep the overall sleekness that was in the bike before and in the bot mode by simply adding a sidecar to accommodate for the armour. Though, the sidecar doesn't look all that comfortable to sit in front of me. Speaking of the sidecar though, as much as it's a great addition, clearly, it feels a little bit unfinished without the gold at the back which we have in the show. This is to make it possible to actually put Prowl in the armour, but if we'd have just had a little gold cap made out of plastic, it would have looked a lot better in my opinion. On the whole though, this vehicle mode brings me a lot of glue. I'd say the glue meter is like... I don't think you can see where it gets to. The addition of glue plastic for Samurai Prowl is a really fun addition. However, I do kind of wish they'd hauled over some of the red detailing from TFA, but that could have made it look kind of cluttered, which would have totally cramped its meditative aura. The pivotal difference between regular Prowl and Samurai Prowl is the armour. And I'm going to save you some spoilers, but he definitely has to go through his healing and growth era to get it, which definitely makes the reward of that armour feel so much cooler. His angular armour definitely shows his ties to Japanese martial arts, with traditional samurai armour silhouettes peeking through in the design, especially in the upper half, with his kick-ass helmet and his big beefy shoulders. Although it's not as subtle as the rest of his personality or character, I personally love that armour on Prowl. I think it's a great symbol of his character progression, from leaving his cyber ninja training unfinished to finally realising his true potential. And obviously, unfortunately, I can't finish off this segment without talking about the price of this distinguished little man. I found a graph to demonstrate it. Yeah, that graph does it.
Animated has a massive spying plot point that lasted into its final season. It gave us the spy, Shockwave, and the scapegoat, Wasp. Now, Wasp never got a figure. He would have if Animated wasn't cancelled, but he did get a figure of his altered form, the form created by Black Arachnia, to try and understand herself better. Waspinator. Despite his show model being a massive hulking beast, his figure is tiny and slender. His design is carried over, even if it has been squished. The clear plastic purple is a great inclusion, especially in the head and wings. Well, wing for my copy, as my childhood one has lost it, along with his tiny baby arms. The Wasp mode is odd, but it was the 2000s, so you can't blame them. But hey, he has flapping wings, or wing in my case. For the final Voyager mold released in the animated line, if you're not Japanese, it's Retgar. I've already gone in depth about how much I love this figure and its character, so I'll keep it short. He's a chunky, lovable idiot, and his head is a TV. What's not to love? Well, I don't love his weapons. He would have fit Prowl's traffic light better than he did. His bin lorry is so cute, and we need more of them in Transformers. We end Wave 6 with Atomic Lugnut, a repaint of Wave 3's Lugnut, so he has already been looked at. And Wave 7 is just Freeway Jazz and Electrostatic Soundwave, both repaints of the Wave 3 counterparts, incredibly expensive ones. One day I will find this figure, even if it means I have to steal it off Dom, or I'd just spend ridiculous amounts of money at TF Nation. God, the Takara paint job's so good. That is the end of Animated's mainline. I think we can all agree that this is one of the best tie-in mainlines we've ever gotten, having some creative repaints, accurate transformations and great designs that translate Wyatt's initial designs to plastic incredibly well. But, like every toy line, the figures didn't stop there. It's time to look at the exclusives. Entertainment packs are something that haven't really been toyed with since Animated, apart from the Prime First Edition 2-pack of Optimus and Megatron. And, like Prime, the first entertainment pack of Animated is the Battle Begins 2-pack, or, to many of us, Optimus Prime vs Megatron. These two are some strange deluxes, and joining me to talk about this set is none other than YouTube's very own Dr. Lockdown.
Transformers Animated was, all things considered, a pretty big part of my childhood. I remember waking up at the crack of dawn to watch new episodes leading up to Megatron Rising, before discovering they were available months early as piracy uploads on YouTube. I would draw pictures, watch video reviews, but weirdly, I didn't actually get a lot of the figures. My main focus was always on the Legends. So right at the start from 07 to 09, I just wasn't getting that many large figures. Plus, the animated Legends never actually released locally. I've heard conflicting things about them showing up down under, but they never made an appearance anywhere near me for sure. Nevertheless, there was one I absolutely needed. One I begged my parents to get. Deluxe Class Optimus Prime was a must-have for me, and my mother eventually obliged as an early birthday present, coinciding with a trip to New Zealand. Of course, this isn't my childhood copy, as said copy broke in many places and lost a kneecap on said trip to New Zealand. But I still remember having a lot of fond memories flipping this guy back and forth in the many Christchurch and Queenstown hotels. These days I can see the jank as well as the justifications for updating him. The vehicle mode is absolutely wonderful, with such swish angular stylings and inspired mass usage. Yeah, the wheel placement is inaccurate, but Kid Me didn't care. Kid Me didn't even notice. The engineering is inspired. It's so good most of it was used wholesale for the legacy version. I adore how the front wheels become the shoulders. It's not accurate in the slightest, but it's such a cool look. And the robot mode is just something else. The super mean head with glorious light piping. The massive power armor boots that make you want to retrieve all forgotten technology. Yes, I've been watching Fallout. Can you tell? The axe practically glows under any light, and even the battle damage isn't too intrusive. Sure, it's got jank in a few areas. The head needs to slide forward to turn, he's got no thigh swivels, but instead a knee one, and his midriff is as non-existent as the stock pull for Velocitron Wave 2. But in spite of all that, he's still a remarkable figure. Nothing stops the ingenuity, the class, the chunkitude. I do think re-examining this has dispelled some of my nostalgia, and I can see where the legacy one has improved since. But I can also see that Kid Me was very lucky to have this, and that adult me was lucky to get a second crack at it.
Megatron is better than Prime, in my opinion, but not by much. He is also incredibly loosey-goosey, but nowhere near as horrible as Prime. His articulation is the same as his nemesis, but he does have clear plastic biceps, so do be careful. He also has a sword in his cannon, much like the Voyager counterpart. Both of these figures have a stupid punch gimmick for entertainment, but it doesn't work too well. Bear in mind, these are old, so it could just be of age. Megatron's transformation is basically the Voyager's but dumbed down. The jet is better, but not by much. But I can't slate this set much, as it was a staple to any child growing up in the 2000s, including me. Now this is the entertainment part of the entertainment pack. Well, first one, anyway, battle begins. And I had a whole thing scripted about, you know, the when you play in the ads and I was going to shut the ads. But the DVD player ain't working. So here's what they do with this. This is what it comes with. This is how the DVD looks. I've got it signed by Sue Blue, Marty Eisenberg, for the TF Nation. But yeah, it's literally just the first episode of the show, and I watched it countless times, which is why the packaging is completely destroyed. So, the second entertainment pack. Oh, this one is a real treat. The Rise of Safeguard. As this was second hand, it doesn't come with the comic, which was the entertainment of this pack. It's also missing the side skirts, but I don't mind as this pack is so much fun and I got it for £10. Once again, thanks to Skascream. These bots are so silly, I love them. They are Russian twinks that are also twins, but also an Elite Guard experiment using the Starscream clone blueprints. Amazing! I love the idea of these two as much as I love the figures. Storm is my favourite of the two, as he is the silliest. Like, he took a photo in front of Blitzwing. What is there not to like? In terms of toys, however, I think Jetfire does look better as he breaks up the blues and whites of the Elite Guard, but I still prefer Jetstorm as he has the better tolerances. Both have the same articulation as they are just mirrored versions of the same toy with different effects and heads. The transformation is easy and they're turned into these futuristic starfighter jets. They look really cool with those elemental effects. They can also combine or grapple as Sentinel Prancers in Predacons Rising. This is the silliest combined mode since the Ice Cream Twins in Revenge of the Fallen. Safeguard is the reason you buy this pack and it's so worth it. The internals are made of clear plastic, so please do be careful, but my copy is fine, even if it is second hand. This is such a great animated figure and idea, even if the articulation is lacking as you can't move his head, but it's such a great toy that it doesn't really matter. And that's what this ultimately is, a toy, and it's fantastic at being a toy. Now we delve into repaint territory with the test store exclusives or target exclusives for those who use the wrong English. As I've already looked at these original moulds, I won't talk much about these. Stealth Lockdown is an all clear plastic lockdown, so I hope you enjoy breakages. I have no idea, no clue how Dom managed to have the balls to even touch this thing, let alone, as you'll see soon, transform it. Bloody hell. I'd be scared shitless doing that, to be honest with you. Rescued Ratchet is a piss-coloured Ratchet that I managed to get for £5 on Marketplace. With these two repaints came with some Legends class pack-ins. Lockdown came with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, whilst Ratchet came with Prowl and Starscream. These are some fine Legends class figures, especially Bumblebee, as that transformation is something else. Other exclusives include True Colours Shockwave with activated Bumblebee, and Sunstorm with activated Ratchet. But we've already spoken about them, so I won't go into too much detail. We all complain about exclusives now, especially in Earthrise and Legacy's Velocitron line, as they had new moulds. So, how do we feel about TFA's Toys R Us exclusives? Unlike those lines, these moulds were of characters who weren't important to the show. Apart from the first, RC. RC is such a great figure, definitely my favourite RC that I've ever owned, which isn't hard considering one of them was the Earthrise one. Mine isn't complete as she's missing her wings, but I did get her for cheap, so I'm not going to complain. She looks like she's come out from the show, apart from the swords, which used to be pointing six that she used as a teacher. Okay, but they can store in her back pauldrons, which is such a clever idea. She also has modern articulation, even if it is very limited. Her transformation is easy and actually uses her limbs to form the vehicle. Take that Earthrise in SS86. She never transformed in the show, but as an alt mode for RC it works perfectly. It looks fast and compact, and also really pretty. Now it's time for a strange inclusion, but one that makes sense for an exclusive, as, even though it's a main character, the design was seen in episode 1 and flashbacks. Even though the wiki says that Ironhide came first, it was in fact this figure that did, as Ironhide was given a new head instead of the unreleased Wasp. And this figure is Cybertron model Ratchet. This is a great figure and my favourite Ratchet toy. The design came directly from the screen, apart from the blue windows and the shock pads, which actually makes sense for a medic. He looks great next to RC and Lockdown, so you can recreate your favourite flashbacks. He also has a punching gimmick, which is very silly. The alt mode is great for a Cybertronian van. I love how the chest changes shape and the legs turn into treads, it's really intuitive. I can feel him running away from Lockdown with RC in his back in this mode. The next Toy R Us exclusive is Ironhide, but he is just Ratchet with a new head and orange. But the final figure of Hasbro's TFA line is here. We've officially reached the end and it's bittersweet. This is an outstanding figure, my favourite deluxe from the line, but it is sad that TFA is over. This is the leader of Team Athenia and a character who deserved more screen time, Rodimus Minor. This is Rodimus plus Hot Rod's best design, in my opinion, and definitely his best toy that I have handled. It has modern articulation and spring-loaded missiles. You really can't get any better than this. The paint and sculpting feel premium. No wonder this was an exclusive, it needed the budget. The transformation is absolutely amazing and I wish the SS86 version took cues from this. And that car, what a vehicle. It's not on Blur's level, but it's certainly close. That clear blue windshield is such a great choice. And this was definitely, as I said before, the best way for TFA to end. And so we have reached the end of the video, but not the end of Animated. Whilst the show and Toyline reached their conclusion 15 years ago, the legacy still lives on. The late Derek J. Wyatt still created character designs up until he passed in late 2021. Marty Eisenberg, along with TF Nations, showcased the script reading for the first 3 episodes of the cancelled Season 4 in 2019. YouTube's very own Kean Carlisle has created his own Season 4, and also published Transformers Animated Lost Media, thanks to Marty Eisenberg. Finally, Animated has been included in the Legacy toy line, with the Motormaster coming later this year. So despite its absence from our TV screens for 15 years, the show still lives on. The show has also influenced future Transformers aspects, such as Ratchet's personality, Ultra Magnus being associated with a hammer, and more. The characters from the show have even made it into other areas, with Lockdown being the main villain of Age of Extinction, Bulkhead being in Prime, looking at in the Reveal the Shield continuity, Slipstream being in literally everything from the Elan continuity to RDW Cyberverse Legends and soon to get it to the Legacy toy line. So, Derek J. Wyatt, Marty Eisenberg, Eric C. Benala, and Alex Kabowski, thank you for making my childhood, and multiple other childhoods of the 2000s. And thank you to Jamie, Xortrider, Dom, Manic Miner's Toystore, Skascream, Leah, and Dr. Lockdown for helping me with this long-winded project. A project that took so long that Rishi Sunak announced a general election for July the 4th. I have been jinxed, and this as it might look at every Hasbro TFA mould. Don't forget to check my book out, the link will be in the description. I will see you in a minute to take a look at another character from the franchise we all love.